Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Alumni Connections. I'm so excited to bring you Joanna Sanchez today. We are going to talk about the adventure and journey that she has taken from Randolph to Randolph, A. Philip Randolph Campus High School, class of 2011, hosted community college alumni class of 2013, alumni of the City College of New York class of 2017 with the Bachelor in Business Administration, New York State licensed K-12 physical education and health teacher December 2019, and Masters in Education June 2020. We're going to find out about Joanna and all the things. We'll be back in a moment. I'm going to play the theme song for our Alumni Connections here and get into it.
There you go.
This is the Alumni Connections Project. We all know Randolph is better than the rest. Even when you progress, you still gotta rep. A. Philip Randolph Campus High School. But this is not a test, you should say it with your chest. Be proud of your origin, and if you are proud, support it then. Stronger together through unity, better together. Let's build the community. Randolph isn't a school or a building, it's a legacy. It's not in your past, it's your identity. So show some pride. Alumni Connections is sponsored and brought to you by SBI, CCPI. SoundBusiness.org, SoundBusiness.org. The journey doesn't end with graduation and prom. The journey doesn't end with graduation and prom. The journey doesn't end with the journey doesn't end. This is the Alumni Connections Project. This is the Alumni Connections Project. A. Philip Randolph, Randolph, A. Philip Randolph, 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 Randolph.
So I know you're in the Randolph building, but hopefully the Randolph brings back some memories from shows and all that good stuff.
It definitely does.
So tell us, Joanna, thanks so much for doing this. Tell us a little bit about, what you're doing right now, and then we'll kind of go back and we'll do the whole story for them.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, Cameron, for having me today. I think I really do appreciate getting to talk on this platform to fellow alumni. So currently I am a physical education health teacher at Randolph, where I actually graduated in high school. And we're preparing to do blended learning, to go online and to be in person. So very exciting.
All right, very cool. So talk to me about your adventure. I want to go back, like before you even got into Randolph. Where were you living? What did you do junior high?
Junior high, I was...
And center your camera up for us. We want to see you, Joanna. Sorry about that. No. I should have told you that before we were doing it. We were worried about sound. I didn't worry about the visual. There you go. You're good.
You're good? All right. So back in middle school, I was actually in the process of moving to Manhattan. I was living in the Bronx, down in Soundview Avenue. And we moved down to 61st by Lincoln Center towards my 8th grade. So I had to change schools. I went to what's called I went to Brooklyn Tech, which is on 110th Street. And it was a program called Delta. And it was actually a program that you could only get in if you get tested in 6th grade. However, we went up to the Department of Education during the time that is still in Brooklyn. And we were able to get me inside Delta being in 8th grade. So, but when I went inside Delta, I was actually very behind. I was struggling actually a lot. They were actually doing calculus, and I never even was exposed to calculus. So I barely almost finished 8th grade with good marks. So it was pretty
funny. How did you get exposed to Randolph?
So funny thing is, I didn't know where I wanted to go to high school. However, Randolph, there was a booklet in high school, and Randolph was the first name on the booklet because it started with an A. It was alphabetical order. And I didn't know much about high school, so I picked the first one on the list. And that's how I made it into Randolph.
It helps, if you're starting a business, you could put an A, you're the first one on the list, right? That's it. All right, yeah. So tell me about like your first experience with Randolph. What was your first impression as you were walking into the building?
As I was walking into the building, I was actually very happy that it wasn't a far commute from me. It was a 30-minute commute. I took the 110 bus.
Because now you were living in the city, not in the Bronx.
Exactly.
You were on the west side, so that was convenient.
I was on the west side, and the one train was right there, and I used to take it all the way to 135th Street and walk the long path. So I was actually just happy overall that it was just a 20-minute commute. Once I got there, I was in the Gateway program. I thought originally they was exposing us to be in the medical side. So
Right.
I was taking a lot of science classes. It was a science heavy curriculum, but I made some friends pretty quickly. One of them was Tadija. We had a very good group. So, and it was very friendly. And then there around towards the beginning of my sophomore year, I was introduced to SBI because they were there promoting, getting your resume checked, bringing in all these business people. We had to dress up. So I love the professional look. And I said, I want to be somebody, especially that I come from low income. So seeing all the professional people actually inspired me during that time. So
Was there somebody that twisted your arm and kind of pulled you in?
My friend, one of my friend, her name, I can't remember. Her last name was Surgeon. Chanel Surgeon. There you go.
Oh yeah, I know. I remember Chanel. Yeah.
So Chanel Surgeon pulled me in and told me that you guys did SAT prep, which I was part of, CAS, and that you guys did these shows. However, I said, I'm not a very good dancer. And then I was speaking to Mr. Thompson about not being a very good dancer. And he said, you can work the backstage. And that's exactly what I did. I was working the backstage. I was doing all the back and the selling of the ticket. And
yeah, I remember you being somebody that was really solid, as somebody that helped us out a lot, which for me, at the times running around doing a lot of the back, I really appreciated when there was somebody that was solid with helping out with administrative details, which is amazing. So you started in with SBI sophomore year. Was there any favorite classes in Randolph that you loved? Anything that you remember that you want to tell folks about in terms of your education piece there?
What I really enjoy was my math classes. I was very good at the math classes. I knew that I didn't want to do nothing to do with writing. I was a terrible writer. So I said nothing to do with writing. If I go into college, I wasn't sure during that time, during my sophomore year, I'll definitely do something related to math. And I was always pretty good at math. So I said, okay, I could do this. I struggle a lot in science and in English. And then I also really, really enjoy extracurricular activity. I enjoy the sports. I was always looking forward to phys ed. During that time, we had project adventures. We're climbing the ropes. We're climbing the walls. So I said, I really enjoy phys ed. And we had it during that time every day. So it was awesome.
Did you do any sports during high school?
I didn't do any sports because I never got medical clearance because when I was born with a heart transplant. So my mom was against it, but I was always around the sport.
And I know that plays a big part into your story. So I'm glad we started down that path, because I know that's going to play in a little bit later here in some of the choices and life decisions that you are making. So you're in school, and it's so interesting how people are different, because I was absolutely completely the other way. Get me away from math. I wasn't good at science either, but I didn't want anything to do with math, nothing to do with science, but I was all in on literature. I didn't graduate high school, matter of fact, because we had to do 3 exhibitions, one on English, one on science, one on math. I did the one on literature, actually did a screenplay for The Hobbit, and then didn't do the math or science, and for that reason didn't graduate high school. So it's amazing how people can be really, really different and have their piece. So now it's interesting because you had such a good time with physical education and how that ties in to what you're doing today. So walk us through junior year and senior year of high school.
So junior year of high school, that's when I was actually one of the most stressing times, because we had to prepare college essays. We had also all the college tours with Mr. Thompson. I know he was very big on the small liberal arts schools, so he kept exposing us to those. He never really talked about staying in the city. He always mentioned go away. So I definitely felt the pressure of going away. However, when I would go home, my mom was highly against going away. She said, no, absolutely not. Don't do it. So I was actually just torn in between, because I said, should I go away? Should I not go away? my mother then kind of gave her complete evidence and said, what happens if you go away and you're no one around you and something happens to you medically? So that was one of the reasons why I was overly stressed, although I was still submitting. I think I fell into the peer pressure because I saw everyone there submitting to schools, away schools. So I started to submit my applications to away schools. I did the Common App. I was doing all the SUNYs. I did Skipmore. I did a lot of the small liberal arts schools. And then my senior year was more relaxing in terms. Oh, and also another thing was the SAT. I was also really stressed because my score wasn't so good, but then it became good. I was practicing. My senior year was much more relaxed. I will say that. It was just waiting for the college acceptance letters to come in. So once I got a few to go away. I remember getting accepted to Binghamton, a lot of the SUNYs. And then I got accepted to Skipmore. That was actually when I told Mr. Thompson I was accepted to Skipmore. And he was really pushing. He was like, you should go. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You will never be exposed to anything like that. You'll meet so many new people. You'll come back a whole different person. And then when I'll go home, it will just be the complete opposite. It will be
which I don't think is an uncommon experience for the folks in the Randolph community. You have a lot of parents that don't want their children for lots of different reasons. And I think it's interesting with yours, we also talk about, there are going to be, and this is why you apply to backups and community college and things like this, because medical reasons can pop up. Staying close to family can become important. So it's, it's one of those things that it's great life advice, not only on, approaching your activity, your opportunities, but also like financial, like, hey, let's invest money in the stock market, but let's make sure we have some money in the savings and some other things, always having your backup. Talk to us as you're facing this decision, how it plays out in terms of, what choice you made, and then, walk us through, how you were feeling during that time.
It's funny you mentioned that because I actually never even applied to a community college because during the time it was looked on so negatively. So I didn't apply to community college.
Well, I don't know that you would apply like in that process, but definitely like local schools.
Yeah, CUNY.
Yeah, CUNY schools, and making sure that you hedge your bets, right? That you have your SAFE applications, your REACH applications, both in the city and abroad, in upstate New York or even out of state, if that's something that you're looking towards.
Yeah, so definitely. So when I went home, I started to have a realization that I said, well, if something does happen to me, no one will be around. And my mom kind of played the role that no one will love you as much as I do. And and that was strong, because I was always a mama's girl. Even when I was in high school, I was always attached to my mom.
Talk about guilt trip, right?
Yeah. She definitely played it, I wasn't the type of kid that wanted to like leave away from home. Like I can't wait to get out the house. I was one of those kids that I wanted to leave the house when I'm ready, right. And that's what I kind of always said. And during that time, just playing my psychological, I said I'm just not ready to go away, and that's when It was when I decided not to go away, I was looking at other options, and I went online. And during that time, which I think they still do, I missed all the deadlines, but during that time they had what's called open admissions, that you could just walk into a community college and show that you graduated with your high school degree, and they'll admit you on a conditional acceptance.
Yeah, open enrollment, yeah.
Open enrollment, that's what it is. And that's exactly what I did. I went to the Bronx. And the reason I went to the Bronx is because I saw one of my friends at Randolph that went to Hostos Community College. So I went to the open enrollment and I gave him my transcript and I was enrolled in Hostos. And my mom was actually, why a lot of people say, oh my God, you're going to a community college, that's bad. My mom was actually, wow, no, that's amazing. You enrolled in college. Like, she would just happen in general that I actually took the path of going to college, and I was going to better myself.
Yeah,
So
and I want to hit this too because, you know, I was sharing my story in terms of not graduating high school. You know, if I had it all over to do again, because I went to Eugene Lane College, new school in the city, it's very expensive. I didn't understand even there was financial stuff that I could have applied to that I didn't because I just didn't know. But if I had it all over to do it again, community college would probably be the way, because in terms of cost versus what I was getting and, you know, certainly what I received, I would go after that route because that would be something where it would be attainable for me. You know, I was a father at 19, so time wise and having that ability to take classes without the pressure of like taking a full load and all that kind of stuff, because that all weighed on me. So not only did I have the peer pressure, for better or worse, right? You know, to hurry up and finish or graduate, which I never ended up doing, but also, you know, the cash, right? The actual expense of it is so much more manageable. And so you can do it at your pace and you can get where you need to go, you know, for that sort of situation. You know, if I had it all over to do again, I would, depending on how far I could go back, right? If I had high school, I would have graduated from high school the right way, apply the right way. But, you know, for the individual in their situation, you got to look at that and see what the best way to go is. So you're at Hostos, right? And you're there. Tell us about that experience. And then I know you ended up moving on to City College. So walk us through that.
So it was amazing going to Hostos because I learned how to study. One of the things that in high school kind of got me not so good grades was because I focused so much time on math and I just didn't know how to study properly. So when I was at Hostos, ended up taking my liberal arts courses, and I went for a little bit of classes, 3 classes, and it was very manageable. And then I was getting to a feel of this, and I was like, okay, like I got this. I'm able to do it. And then when I know the next semester I took 6 classes, and during that time, I was able to manage it more just because I was able to learn how to study. And then not only that, so like you mentioned the cost. So in regular semester is 5 classes. I took that 6th one, and actually my mom was able to pay for it in a payment plan, that 6th class, so I don't fall behind and I could graduate with my associates on time. And that was
amazing.
Exactly. And it was amazing. And I felt like I didn't have to take out any loans. So I ended up also taking summer classes, which allowed me to be just in time to graduate within the 2 years and being able to transfer to City College. So I ended up getting my associates at Hostos. And I met actually one of my best friends at Hostos that he still is my friend today, which is amazing.
Well, let's shout him out. So who did you meet?
His name is Salo Jimenez.
All right. So hey, shout out to Sal. We'll make sure he watches this, right? And then, so tell us why you moved over to City College. Why did you apply there and move over to City College, and tell us about that experience?
Well, again, so when I was applying for schools, I was debating now I'm more older. I have 2 years in. Should I go away? Is this the right time to go away? So I started to applying again to the SUNYs, to the liberal arts, and to the CUNYs. And when I went home, actually Salo exposed to me to this program called David Ramsey. And in David Ramsey, what he was explaining is, if you could stay home and be debt-free, then do it. That will put you so much ahead in your life than taking out loans at another college. So that's when I was like, I was considering more CUNY because I was hearing this big financial guy talking about the best move and the best decision is to stay home until you get your bachelor's. So then I was sold. I went on college tours, different college tours. I was accepted to Baruch, Hunter, and City College. And the reason why I decided to go to City College is because I knew the route better, actually, from Hostos to City College. So I said, okay, I think City College sounds good. So I picked City College, and I love the campus. I love that old school campus. And I thought, okay, and it was right there because it was next to Randolph. Although I was trying to get away from Randolph just keep popping up because I did actually say I don't want to be next to Randolph, but it just happened. So I enrolled at City College.
That's amazing. And I think that financial piece of it, you know, whether you're going away to private liberal arts college, you know, we definitely had that conversation with so many students, you know, what's the appropriate amount of debt to take? I think, you know, what we were saying before, I don't know what Thompson's recommended on the day-to-day now, but no more than $7,000 per year, you know, because you don't want to, you know, graduate and then just be in this horrible kind of hole that you got to climb out of just to start making it in life, right? You know, you want to be able to invest and buy a home and all that. So it's great. And I had just been recently exposed to David Ramsey, so I know who you're talking about. That's
there you go.
Big YouTube guy, right?
Yeah.
Ivanovich says hello.
Oh, hey, Ivan.
All right, so you're at City College. Tell us about that City College experience. You're there. You're back in the neighborhood of Randolph. What was that like?
So when I was at City College, it was another battle because now you had to declare your major. When you're taking liberal arts classes, it was just all the required classes. So as soon as I got into City College, they told me, okay, you have to declare your major. So I was debating when I was going back to my Randolph days that I was exposed to science classes and I was in the Gateway program. So I first majored in biology because I thought, oh, it would be best to become like a doctor or something. And I was thinking also the money aspect. I come from low income. So I said, I want to make a lot of money, you know? So I said, oh, doctors make a lot of money. So I took my first biology course and it was a disaster. I wasn't even remotely ready to what was ahead. So then I went back. I was taking only 4 classes with biology. And I went back and I was taking Calculus 1 with biology. And I remember just looking forward to going to my calculus class because I knew that I would do well in that class. So then I went back to switch my major and I did business administration with a minor in economics. And I stood with it. And one of the things I remember my advisor saying was, hey, you could go into the business field. And that's really good money too. And that's when I started to approach and started to look into the business field. And when I was there, I was doing really good in my classes. And I started to look for what's called internships. I was in my junior year and they were very pushing towards internship. And I was able to intern in the MTA in the office, in the financial office in the MTA. So I was super excited. I was like ecstatic. I was making a lot more than back then when I was in high school. I was working in McDonald's. So I said, just looking at the increase in salary during just that summer, I was like, oh my God, yeah, I could do this. So when I was doing my internship in the MTA, I was like, okay, finance is cool. I left and I continued to actually.
And I don't think everybody knows that you can get paid internships, and that's obviously what you're talking about, right? So that's something where you get the experience and you get paid.
And you get paid, and not only that, not to promote the MTA, but you also get the free mentor card. So
there you go.
So so they gave me the free mentor card. You could go anywhere with the free mentor card. So I was able to go to, so I was ecstatic. And when I came back to my senior year of college, my career advisor started to telling me, like, working for the government is okay, it's nice, but what you really want to do is work at an investment banking firm. And he pointed out all these really cool investment banking firms. He was mentioning Morgan Stanley, not Ernest and Young. That's an accounting firm. It was a lot of firms. One of the ones that stood in my head was Goldman Sachs. And the reason why it stood in my head was because he actually knew someone directly from Goldman Sachs, and her name was Bianca. And he told me I could put you in contact with Bianca, and you could do a summer internship there at Goldman Sachs. And I said, where is Goldman Sachs? But I had no idea. And he was like, well, there's one by BMCC, the one down by Fulton Street. And when I was in a conversation with Bianca on the phone, she was a recruiter of Goldman Sachs and told me to come down for this fair down in Fulton Street, and that I was going to be exposed with a lot of other college students and that I should have a great time. I went down to Fulton Street and I was exposed to a lot of college students. None of them were CUNY. It was a lot of them were Columbia, NYU, all these top what they call target schools, which was where they primarily got their interns from. So City College was just like an outreach. They don't get interns from City College. Well, that's what she told me. So I was there, and then she said, you know what, I want to push your resume forward to actually the office down in Salt Lake City. And I'm like, what? Salt Lake City? And then I'm like, where's Salt Lake City? She was like, in Utah. That's where they have their operation analysts, their big operation. It was primary operation that they run their operation side. So she was like, I'm going to push your resume there, and then we'll see what happened. And then I was like, okay, I was excited, but I was a little bit sad at the same time because I was like, oh, I was hoping to work here down at Fulton Street because that office was so beautiful. But so she did push my resume forward to them, and I had an in-person interview. I remember in November. In November, they flew me out. They paid for the hotel. They paid for everything. I was going to stay there for 3 days. It was a 2-day interview process. And so I remember going down to, I spoke about it with my mom, and my mom said, okay, I'll let you go because it was just a short amount of time. It was like, okay.
I love that. Mom says, I'll let you go.
Yeah, it's just 3 days. So she was like, okay, 3 days. And then she was like, you're going to be on the phone with me. We're going to be talking. So as soon as I got there, I stood in the Salt Lake City area and I called her immediately. They paid for, in Salt Lake City, you need a car. I obviously was from the city. I never drove before. So I did a lot of taxis. And so they paid for the taxi to go from Salt Lake City to the central office, which was in 22 Main Street, which was one of the biggest, that's where all the offices is. And it was absolutely beautiful. I remember the interview.
Yeah, so here you are getting your out of New York experience for really the first time, right?
The first time, yeah. The first time even being on my own without my mom, actually. So I was a little bit nervous because I was like, oh my God, what am I going to cook? What am I going to eat? I was nervous about all of that. But I remember eating out a lot, and I said, no, I don't have the money for that. So I was like, But when I got to 22 Main Street, I loved it. I was immediately drawn by the office. It was big. It was beautiful. The interview was a group interview. So I was a little bit intimidating. I'm not going to lie. I was the only Hispanic there, and everyone else was Caucasian. So I was like, oh my God, I don't think they're going to pick me. But I was like, I did prepare for it. I remember preparing for it over and over with my career prep at City College. He was fantastic. He gave me scenario questions. He even had me interview with his director in the human resource office. She threw me a lot of questions, and I thought, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. And I remember just researching the company a lot. I wanted to make sure that I knew everything about the company because I said, whatever they throw at me, I'm going to know it. And
well,
this
speaks so well to City College. I'm always knocking City College because of the statistical numbers, but this speaks really well to them. That's awesome.
Yeah, and well, shout out to Juan. He's still there. He's still the career counselor. So he overly prepared me. When I was there, I knew I was one of the best. I don't want to brag, but I was everything that they were asking. I knew the answer. They were asking about the corporate culture. I knew the answer to it. I knew all the cultural questions. Then they asked some finance questions. I knew the answer to that too. I don't even know how. They asked, what's the number in our stock market now? And I was just overly prepared. So I left there confident. I was like, okay, I did pretty well. Then I had my second interview, which was a one-on-one interview with the VP of operations. And that was a little intimidating. I was like, oh my God, hopefully I could do this. But I remember my interview at City College where Juan had me interview with the director of human resource at City College. So that played a role. And when I interviewed with him, he asked a lot of questions. And then I remember him telling me, why do you want to work at Goldman Sachs? And I don't remember my answer, but I did remember along the lines of wanting a new experience and being in Salt Lake. I just don't want to get the experience of Goldman Sachs, but I want to get the experience of the city of being in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And he loved the answer. I think I left there. He was there smiling. We had a good time. He was laughing. And then he said, and then I said, oh, when should I hear back for the internship? And then he said, actually, you'll hear back within an hour. So I went back to the hotel and I didn't hear back within an hour. So he didn't keep his promise. I was packing to go back to the city. I was off. So I spent my Thanksgiving in Utah. I did a little exploring, but not too much. I didn't know any.
It was Thanksgiving. Wow.
It was Thanksgiving. So it was the day, it was in the 24th. So not Thanksgiving Day, but the 24th. So it was Thanksgiving Eve that I had my last interview with the VP. So, and he was going off away for Thanksgiving and he said, I'll hear back within an hour. I didn't. I packed my stuff to go back to New York. And I actually didn't hear from them. I remember going back to school and my Huang asking me, which is my career counselor, how did it go? Do you hear back from them? And I said, oh, I think it went well, but I don't think I got it because I didn't hear back within an hour like he promised.
Right,
me.
Yeah.
So I was like, no.
Yeah, I would feel like I wasn't on the list too if that was what I was told. Yeah.
Exactly. So I said, you know what? We have to go back to the drawing board because I don't think I got it. And actually, within a week later, the lady from Human Resource called me from Salt Lake and asking me my experience in Salt Lake, that was I able to explore Salt Lake a little bit more. And I said, yeah, I was able to explore Salt Lake a little bit more. And then she said, what do you think of coming to Salt Lake and joining us at Goldman Sachs this summer? It looks like you were, she was telling me I was selected. I was overly joyed. I was emotional. I remember taking the phone off, crying a little bit. I knew it was like life changer. And she said, you know, we really want you here. We're willing to fly you over again. However, they don't cover housing. They didn't cover housing. I had to find housing on my own. But however, they said they were going to put me in touch with other members that got accepted to the Salt Lake internship during that summer. So I felt like, okay, yeah, that's not bad. But then I was thinking the whole summer, and she was explaining to me how it was going to be a valuable experience, how this will open so many doors. I was just ecstatic. And then when I went home and told my mom was like, no. Like, she loved the opportunity, but she said, what if something happens? Again, the guilt trip went on. And then I did call the recruiter. And I told her that my mom's worried. And funny thing is that recruiter spoke Spanish and said that they will cover any medical expense that happens during that Salt Lake City.
Oh, wow.
So my mom then was like, oh, and she was like, really? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. And she was like, we'll even cover if you want to come over to Salt Lake City for a week. So my mom then was like, okay, we talked about it. And she said, well, if you want to do finance, like the lady was explaining, this is an amazing opportunity. And if you do well in the internship, she was like, the likelihood of you getting hired, if you do well in the internship, we hire almost all our interns. If they do well, is about 97%. So that even sold me even more that if I do well in the internship, I will secure a job.
Right,
so
right.
I didn't have to look for a job. So I said,
so mom said yes.
Mom finally said yes. So finally leaving the nest.
So you get down to Utah. So I don't want to spend forever on this because you've moved on. You've done some amazing things. But tell us about the Utah experience and why you're not, why you didn't choose to continue on with them and all that. Because I thought that was a very interesting part of your story.
So when I get down in Utah, I realized that it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the culture. It was a Mormon culture heavy.
Yeah, tell me about the experience first of all, because I know how I ended up, but I'm interested in basically sharing, because you did get down there and you did get experience there. So tell us about what were the positive things of being in the office and experiencing some different cultures, and then obviously there was the negative that you're getting into here.
But definitely there was a lot of positive. So one thing I would say, it was very welcoming. It was, everyone was willing to help. So if you in the office, so if you had a question and you generally wanted to learn the office, the day-to-day, they will answer it. They were there. I remember we were there during the time of Bitcoin when they were coming out. So we were working long hours and they were treating us with pizza, and it was really a family. So and then we did a lot of outings, which we will go hiking on the weekend, Saturday. They planned a lot of hiking trips. They planned a lot of, I was part of the Hispanic Association for Goldman Sachs, and we did a lot of activities, and they were inviting us to all these different things, and it was really, really cool. I know that I was able to expose for the first time going on a horse. I did a little I got on a horse for the first time. I remember being on top of the mountain for the first time, zip lining for the first time. We went over to Park City. Park City is a very interesting story. That's where they hosted the 2016 Winter Olympics. So we went down there to Park City, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. So that was the positive side. However, there was the negative side, which was the Mormon culture, and I didn't really understand it. Like I know they were trying to figure out if you were a Jack Mormon in terms of, because Mormon technically don't drink. So even if you took like a sip of alcohol, they called you what's called a Jack Mormon. They assumed that everybody there was a Mormon. I lived next to University of Utah, which was a non-Mormon school, versus BYU, that was the Mormon school. So they were like, oh, maybe you're Jack Mormon. I remember the experience also of everything.
So Jack Mormon means you're Mormon, but you don't really follow the guidelines, the principles of the religion.
Exactly. And then one of the things that they ask me to oftentimes is if you're married. One of the things in Utah is that they're married relatively young. So they were like, oh, you're not married. And that looked off like a bit. And so I was like, oh, one of the things also, everything
were people looking at you like, being a young female in Utah, were people like, oh, you're not married, like that's weird, that's crazy? Or were there a lot of people looking at you like, oh, you're not married, like you're an opportunity?
No, it was more like, oh, you're not married, that's bad. Like you're almost missing your opportunity to get married, because most girls are married at 19, 18, 19 already. So I was like, I was almost hitting
that's wild
21. So yeah, I was 20 around there. So I was like, oh my goodness, no, I'm not married. And I remember when my milk ran out and I had to go get it, and it was around 11:30 and everything was closed. And I was like, what? And that was
this is a uniquely NYC phenomenon, because I know growing up in New York City, going someplace else and then just having the expectation that you're going to be able to walk out your door and go to the bodega or the 24-hour Dwayne Reed or whatever, right? And that does not exist in a lot of places.
Nope. And that was a 20-minute walk that I took. So I was even more frustrated that it was closed, because that was the closest kind of 7-Eleven that they had, and it was closed. At that time, I didn't even think about, let me check if it's open, because this is a no-brainer, just 10 o'clock. I'm walking with my roommates, and they didn't say anything, but they're from also Boston, so they didn't know either. And one of them was also from New York too. So she was like, yeah, it has to be open. It's just 10 o'clock. And that's when I realized, oh, wow, it's closed. And I figured, well, when it was closed, I lost my opportunity, because I would usually work from 8 a.m. and I wouldn't leave the office at 7:30, 8 p.m.
Yeah, you're talking about that was very long hours.
It was very long hours. And I was like, oh my God, like that's my life. Like I come home and I'm already exhausted and I'm in bed, and it's back to the routine. It was nothing more than just work and go to and work and come home, work and come home. And even on Saturday.
So you get to the end of this, and so were they saying like, hey, do you want to continue on, or what did that look like?
No, so at the end of the internship, we didn't know exactly where we stand. It was more like a mystery. When I went back to New York, a day later, that's when I got the call saying that Goldman Sachs would like to extend full-time. And I was like, oh, full-time. And she was like, yeah, full-time here in our Utah location in the operations side. And I asked the lady, how long do I have to decide that I wanted to join Goldman Sachs platform? And she said, you have a week. We'll give you a week to decide. This is my direct number. And call us back if you have any questions. And that's when I knew I was kind of debating, do I want to go back to Utah, live 2 years there? Did I like that life? For me, I always felt like there's more to life than just working.
Yeah.
And I was there working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sometimes I was on call Saturday. And there were so many things that I loved to do that I thought it would just have to be on hold for 2 years if I do join Goldman Sachs. So I thought I made the decision that I wasn't going to join Goldman Sachs, and I panicked. I remember even calling. I sounded so sure of myself, but once I closed the phone, I was like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I just gave up the opportunity of a lifetime. And I cried, and I remember thinking to myself, like, there's nothing else I could do. And I started to pick up a lot of odd jobs, random jobs, just so I could have some sort of money. And I worked at Scan. There was this program at Scan that I was working at, and I really loved being around the kids. It was a tutoring program. However, it was also an athletic program that we implemented a lot of athletic things. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I really enjoy this. And when I sat down with one of the Scan members, he told me, oh, have you ever thought about becoming a physical education teacher? And I said, teacher? I thought it was like far-fetched. I was like, no, absolutely not. Teachers make so little. And he was like, no, that's not true. It actually changed over the years. If you look at so he pulled up the U of T salary form. And then that's when I saw that it actually did change. So I went back and I started doing my research. And I went into it and I thought, okay, yeah, I could see myself being a teacher. I love the idea of work-life balance. I love the idea of having summers off because one of my goals was to travel the world. I also love the idea that you could do so many stuff other than just teaching. You could also coach at the side, you could tutor, and I love the impact that you can do on students. So that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to become a physical education teacher. And during that time, they had
I love the way that you're looking at this too, because I think that so many people, they kind of go back to a quote from Michelle Obama's book that really stuck out to me. So she has this book, Becoming, and
yeah, I know that one.
Have you read it?
I read it. Yep. Absolutely.
All right. So in the beginning of the book, I think it's almost like preface or like the first chapter. I can't remember which, but she's talking about an adult asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the fact that that is can be a very limiting question because, you can be so much, right? You don't have to be one thing. And so thinking about not only what you want to do, but what else you want to do, right?
Exactly.
So having your summers free to travel and having those elements, because a lot of people too, whether it's a medical degree, finance, consulting, I've seen that with a lot of graduates that it is very much a grind. You get into a company like Deloitte or Ernst & Young, you're going to have to grind it out for a couple of years, and that's a part of that career track. So sorry to take away, but I just love the way that you were kind of thinking more and having that experience, starting to think a little bit more holistically about, okay, I want to do this, but I also want to do all these other things, right?
Exactly. I said, I love to bike ride. I love to travel. So this sounds, and I love the build. One of the things at Goldman Sachs that I remember specifically is that during the holiday season, like you had to ask for your days off way in advance and you might and might not get it. In teaching, you get it. Like it's paid, you get it. You know when is your time off. You could plan your trips. Like you could look at your calendar, the DOE calendar, you know when is your time off. So I went into this program called Pathways to PE, which is unfortunately, it just got cut off, which they allow you to get your master's in a year and a half, and you'll be licensed within that year. So that's exactly what I did. I applied for that program. It was a grind of a program because you had to be in the school setting observing, and then you were taking classes at night. I wouldn't end my day till 10 p.m. at night. And plus on top of that, you had to do your schoolwork. So when I was there, I was overly exhausted. And during that time, I had to do observation hours. I was in an elementary school, and that elementary school wanted to hire me. They were like, yep, we're going to hire you. We loved you. You got to go get your teaching. You got to get your teaching credentials. Teaching credentials is passing your exams. It's 3 of them. It's 3 tough ones. So it's not very easy. So I was very nervous. I remember taking the first one, I passed this. Second one, I passed it. The third one was a little bit challenging because you actually had to send out recordings of you teaching. And so I passed the third one. And then finally, when I went to apply for my actual license, you don't need your master's yet to apply for your license. You just need to pass your exams and have meet all the requirements. And one of the requirements that I didn't meet was because it was a license from K through 12. It was not observing high school. I never observed high school. I only observed elementary and middle school. So when I got into a panic mode, I got rejected from getting my teaching license because of that requirement. So I remember thinking, where am I going to find a high school? And Brooklyn College pulled out this list of all the schools that, I could possibly observe, but they were all in Brooklyn. And I live in Manhattan, so I was thinking to myself, it's not gonna work. Like that's a travel. So then I remember calling Mr. Carcano. Mr. Carcano was a guy that worked in the attendance at Randolph, but he became the director of physical education here at Randolph. So I called him and I told him, hey, I have to do some observation hours. Can I do it at Randolph? And he said, absolutely. You're an alumni. Come by. Everybody, I'm going to tell everyone that you're an alumni. And so when I got there, everyone was so friendly. I thought, oh my God, and to be back at Randolph, it brought so much memory. I remember speaking to Mr. Thompson, even that first day when I was doing my observation hours and just recollecting some beautiful memories, speaking to Miss McShaw that she was still there. And I thought, oh my God, well, how cool would it be to work at Randolph? But it never even crossed my mind. Like they don't want me. I'm just here to do my observation hours and to get my license. So I said, okay, they don't want me. It's fine. And then Mr. Carcano, I remember finishing up my observation hour. He called me. He said, guess what? Mr. Williams is retiring, which is one of the physical education teacher. And he said, will you be open to working at Randolph? And I was like, what? I thought that was a lifetime. I was like, absolutely. And so when I applied for my license, as soon as I got it, I got hired at Randolph. I turned it down. I turned down the middle school. I told them that very politely that I chose another school, but however, I had a wonderful experience. And they brought me on board at Randolph. I had my teaching license already, but I had to finish my master's. Obviously, you need to finish your master's to become a full-on teacher. So it was just a quick turnaround. I thought I was going to work in a middle school, and I ended up working at Randolph. And I had my first year was in 2019, and I had a blast. It was amazing. And then
you completed your master's in June, right?
This past June, yeah.
Congratulations. That's a huge deal. That's amazing. And I love the fact that they brought you in, because what better way to kind of connect with the students than have an alumni teaching. I just love that. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the things I always tell students. I'm like, I was a student here, and I tell them all my ventures, and I was like, you could become anything, you could go. My dream was finance. That door didn't work out, but here I am as a teacher, and I loved it. And not only that, during March, when the school closed because of the pandemic, a lot of students was unsure of the whole college process. I even was able to help them during that time too, helping them apply to college, giving them recommendations.
That's amazing.
And I said, oh my God, there's no better place I'd rather be than Randolph. So, and I officially, when I got the job at Randolph, very funny, I purchased my first apartment where I officially moved out of my mom's house. So I'm living at home with my dog.
I know that felt good.
That felt amazing. It was really funny because this apartment, I actually live in the Upper West Side in this co-op, and it was sold to me by somebody that worked at Goldman Sachs at a very low cost. He practically gave it to me. He said he's moving to London, and he was like, listen, I'll sell it for you for this price. And I was like, what? Because the apartment is absolutely beautiful. So I officially ended up moving out of my mom's house. I got myself a dog, which is really funny about the dog. I was always scared of pets. So people that are watching that know me in Randolph knew that I was always scared of dogs. I got over my fears. I brought my own dog, and I actually adopted it. But it's awesome. It felt awesome.
That's an amazing story, and I love that bringing it all home with that like Goldman connection, because I think that's the beauty of working in a storied kind of place like that and taking advantage of those internships, because you create those connections. You didn't have the Skidmore, experience that you maybe wanted for yourself, or maybe somebody else wanted for you, but you got the whole point, which is to create those connections with people that allow you to help you in life. So I love that you've brought it all together with that, and certainly you've built a coalition of folks. Talk to us about what the future looks like for Joanna Sanchez. What are some of the dreams now? You're just starting out. You got your place. You're starting out in Randolph. What does the future hold for you? What are you looking to do?
I hope that I could stay at Randolph and be a teacher for as long as I can, because I absolutely love it. I'm also coaching. I recently signed to be a coach at PSAL, but however, with the COVID, is not materializing, but they want me as a coach. So I hope to coach. I hope to continue to inspire. I know that I would like to continue to work in the after school program. And then for my personal goals, I love working out. I love riding bikes. I hope to continue riding bike in Central Park and continue to travel. I've been to a lot of cool places, even during my time. This upcoming year, this summer, I'm hoping to go to Australia. So if everything goes well and everything is safe, I'm hoping to continue traveling and just continue being, inspiring.
All right, so we'll try to hook you up with the folks that are Australia familiar, so we can get you connected that way. I definitely am looking forward to taking a bike ride with you. I've been getting into to bike ride. I've actually been getting into mountain biking. That might be a little bit fast, but I enjoy just going for regular bike rides too.
No. I ride my mountain bike. So I usually ride it. I try to cover. I went from Manhattan to Brooklyn and rode back. So I love bike riding. So I'm definitely taking you up. I gotta
hang with you. So I do both the like street riding, but I've also been going down like the rocky paths and that kind of crazy stuff too, which I totaled completely my big box store kind of bike, and I had to level up and get a bike that it's amazing, but it's a beast. It's cool. It's very cool, but it's something that I know, like I can do a regular bike ride. I can do that. And then if people are a little bit more aggressive, I can hang with them too. What is a good way for people to connect with you? And Ivan says, when's the home welcoming party?
Soon. Ivan is in town, right? Because I know he lives in Chicago. So whenever he's in New York, just
he might be willing to make the trip for you. I'm sure there's a lot of alumni and friends. Yeah. So what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
I would say through either Facebook or my email. I'm always reading my emails. Is Sanchez with another Z, Joanna@gmail.com. So I have my DOE email, but I try to keep it now only for professional stuff. But my personal one is Sanchez, another Z, Joanna@gmail.com, and Facebook. And
I think I linked LinkedIn on the folks down below. If you're on YouTube, you can go see it, or to the side if you're on Facebook. And then I'll go back in and enter in the Facebook link so people can, if they're on YouTube, they can find you there. Thank you so much for doing this, Joanna. What are some people that you might want to connect with or work with in the future, folks that you would like to contact you for, whatever reason? Who are folks that you'd like to connect with?
I would like to connect with people that, folks that are for hiring high school students, like to do internship for high school students. That's one of the things, because I know a lot of my students want to find jobs, and they also are very interested. I would like to connect with people that are interested in the stock market. I know a lot of my students want to get exposed to it. They've been trying to download Robinhood, which I think is a trading. So definitely people that could help out my students in that nature.
Yeah, Robinhood is great. It's a free app. And I've been using it to invest since December of 2017. And it's one of those things, I think you got to be careful with it because, it's risky, but definitely diversifying and putting some money into companies that you think are going to be doing well for the next 10 years is a good idea. My money has certainly grown and I'm not the best at financial stuff.
I'm not.
But
I'm
it's-
actually.
Go
I'm
ahead.
actually not. No, I'm actually not either. So I have actually my college professor. He's my professional portfolio, and does all the finance stuff for me in the stock market. But definitely, I would love to learn, and I would love my students because I know they've been playing around for a long time with it. So definitely,
That's awesome. So I'm gonna say one thing that I want to just share with alumni. We have a 30 for 30 campaign going on. Ivan says, Robin is a good exposure to new investors. Yeah, it's the nice thing about it is there's just no additional fee for buying stocks or anything. Yep. It's just an easy way to get in and know that your money is going directly into an investment without fees. So we have this thing for alumni. This whole thing is about bringing alumni together. We have a 30 for 30 campaign for SPI. I want to make everybody aware of. Folks can actually text 44321, 44321, and if you text the message draw, DRAW, our path, draw our path, you'll see that we have a virtual gala coming up. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that, and I'll drop that information into the chat a little bit later. But again, Joanna, thank you for doing this. I'm going to let you have the last words here and say goodbye to everybody, and then I'll play us off, and then I'll talk to you afterwards.
Thank you so much for having me, Cameron. I just want to give you another thank you. I do appreciate the opportunity. And definitely, if you have any questions, you have my email, my contact. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great one.
Hey, Joanna, I'll talk to you guys soon. Hang with me, Joanne. I'll be right back with you.
Yep.
This is the Alumni Connections Project. We all know Randolph is better than the rest. Even when you progress, you still gotta rep. 8th Phillip Randolph Campus High School. But this is not a test, you should say it with your chest. Be proud of your origin, and if you are proud, support it then. Stronger together through unity, better together. Let's build the community. Randolph isn't a school or a building, it's a legacy. It's not in your past, it's your identity. So show some pride. Alumni Connections is sponsored and brought to you by SBI, CCPI. SoundBusiness.org, SoundBusiness.org. The journey doesn't end with graduation and prom. The journey doesn't end with graduation and prom. The journey doesn't end with the journey doesn't end. This is the Alumni Connections Project. This is the Alumni Connections Project. 8th Phillip Randolph, 8th Phillip Randolph.